All right, so we have a lot of people saying A and a lot of people saying B. So here we're saying for pollinating certain crops such as cranberries, bumblebees are far more efficient than honeybees. So for some reason, we just like these bumblebees more than these honeybees. This is because a bumblebee tends to visit only a few plants in a limited area. So like they're more efficient. They're like sticking in their little box and they're getting stuff done. Whereas the honeybee just is, they're scattered and all over the place and they're going and they are visiting a wider variety of species. I was like, okay, I understand this stimulus. But then when I got to these answer choices, I was like, ooh, these are I didn't love any of them the first time through. I think, so let's start with E. The greater the likelihood of a given bee species visiting one or more plants in a given cranberry crop, the more efficient the bee species will be at pollinating that crop. What do you think about this one, Janati?
I was like, okay, but this isn't really supported by what's in the stimulus. I was like, this is irrelevant.
Yeah, this is almost the opposite, right? It's saying the greater the likelihood that it visits one or more plants. I'm like, no, we're trying to say that the less plants you visit, the more efficient you are. All right, Brittany, why didn't you like D?
I just didn't really think it was relevant that bumblebees are just more likely to visit the cranberries.
Yeah, well, and also this is like a most strongly supported. So is it most strongly supported that cranberries are typically found in limited areas? Do we have any support of that? No, because this is a bottom down question. So we don't get to bring in new information. All right, Zach, why is C wrong?
I think it's wrong because we're not specifically talking about any of the specific types of bees. We're not talking a bumblebee or honeybee. We're just talking about a bee flies over. That's probably not
right. We're not talking about but like, why else is this one wrong? What do you think, Nicole?
I thought the same thing as Zach because it doesn't talk about the specific types of bees.
Doesn't it?
I just thought we just didn't know. Like, we don't know this.
Right. And also, it says the smaller the number of plant species. So this is almost the opposite, right?
I was going to say that going against what we were saying.
Yeah, because we're saying that the honeybees are going over a much broader area and visits a wider variety of species. Well, this is saying that if a bee, the broader the area, the smaller number. This is the exact opposite. Maybe not the exact opposite, but it's countering. All right, so now we're down to our two most debated answers. I want you to go ahead and read over these two and affirm your answer or go ahead and change it. All right, Gaia, I'm glad you joined, by the way. Gaia, why did you pick your answer over the other answer?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I thought A was kind of strong. It said any one of those species. So that's one of the reasons. And then also like the if, I thought it was kind of like it doesn't say if the honeybees visit a wider like variety of plants. I thought it was like the if didn't appear in the stimulus, so that's kind of why I eliminated it.
Yeah, it's one, it's a conditional statement. So it's saying if honeybees visit a wider variety of plants than bumblebees, the honeybee will be less efficient than the bumblebees at any one of those species. Just because in our stimulus, and Zach, you picked this up for eliminating B, but I was curious why you let it go in A. Our stimulus is just talking about cranberries. So how do we know, like, so we're taking one situation and you're making the assumption that would be okay in every situation. Where how is B much more mild than A? Who knows that answer? Janati, how is B much more mild?
So yeah, I think for me, I was just like A is way too strong, whereas B is definitely supported by the stimulus because we were just focusing on cranberries. And then I just didn't like the any part on A. It's like any of the species that's way too strong, and we don't know just based off the information given.
Yes,
right?
The part that I love so much about bee is it just says that the number of plant species other than cranberries that a bee visits affects it. We don't say like how much it affects it or that it's crazy, or it just says that in some way this does something to it. So can you see how mild B is compared to A? And what do you think, Cora? I feel like you were putting some good things in the chat.
Yeah, so the biggest thing I was looking for is the efficiency. So going back up to the stimulus, if you just take out the bees, like the type of bee and like the bumblebee and all that, take that away and just say a bee is more efficient because it visits only a few plant species in a limited area. So just think of it of just that part.
Okay.
And so that to me is where you can knock A out, because it kind of does the complete opposite of exactly what that just said. Because what is efficient is they have to look at something just the smaller area. And that's what I was really kind of honing in on and trying not to focus on the cranberry word, because that did kind of mess me up or trick me up a little bit. And also not trying to focus on bumblebees or honeybees, just bees in general.
Yeah, so if a bee visits, so yeah, that was actually a great job of breaking it down, Cora. If a honeybee visits a wider variety of plant species, the honeybee will be less efficient than the bumblebee at pollinating any, well, I think if it visits a wider variety, it would be less efficient, right? I don't think it's the complete opposite.
Well, they were changing up the names compared to like what they were saying up the top. So what we're looking for is we want to make sure they only visit a few plant species in a limited area.
And we're saying the bumblebees are far more efficient than the honeybees for this reason. That doesn't mean that if we switch it and we use the same reasoning, that honeybees would then just become more efficient than bumblebees. Like, who knows, there might be another thing that makes these bees different too. Right? Are you following?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.